Hey everyone, so One Piece chapter 1011 just came out and we got a lot of stuff to talk about. So I'm going to start with the rooftop. I think last chapter, it was a little hard to gauge just how effective Luffy was going to be against Kaido 1v1. Because we saw, Luffy's advanced Conqueror's Haki, he had just essentially awakened it or realized how to use it. And Kaido was kind of surprised. He was shocked. He wasn't ready for it whatsoever. So Luffy looked really good last chapter. But the question was, how was he going to hold up if that continued on to this chapter where it's actually just him and Kaido mano a mano? And it's looking like Luffy can actually just go blow for blow with Kaido by himself. Like, there's no way to take away from what Luffy's doing right now. Kaido's not that injured. He has some scars and some injuries and stuff, but come on, this is One Piece. Characters shake that sort of, like, it's not a big deal. Unless Oda makes it clear that a character is, handicapped at this moment or not fighting at their full strength. Like, for all intents and purposes, this is Kaido in his hybrid form, going serious against Luffy, who is also, for the record, taking his fair share of injuries over the course of this fight. And Luffy's in base form, and it's just kind of surreal to see this happening. And it's just hard to imagine explaining to a reader, like, at the start of Wano, or after Luffy got one-shotted by Kaido at the start of Wano. Or, you could even go back to Whole Cake Island when Luffy was having so much trouble against Katakuri. Like, explaining to a reader that we would be getting to a point in Wano where Luffy can just, in his base form, go toe-to-toe, blow for blow with, like, Kaido, when Kaido's going, pretty serious. So, to me, that's just, it was kind of just a surreal series of panels, seeing Luffy do all that, and also just getting to see that, it's not just Luffy's advanced Conqueror's Haki. We see his other growth, subtly slipped in there with, we got that panel of an exclamation mark above Luffy's head before Kaido charged him. So we get these little hints that Luffy's using Future Sight as well to keep up with Kaido's speed. So Luffy's not in his fastest form, which is Gear 4th. Gear 4th is faster than Gear 2nd, by the way. That was established in Dressrosa pretty clearly. So Luffy's not in his fastest form, but, with Advanced Observation Haki, he doesn't need to be the fastest person in the world because he's got Future Sight, so he can keep up with really fast characters. And now with Advanced Conqueror's Haki, he can keep up, in terms of just straight fisticuffs. Well, not really fisticuffs because there's no contact involved. But, straight power for power, Luffy can match blows with, it looks like just about, if he can do it against Kaido, he can do it against probably close to anyone in the world. So, remains to be seen how this goes. I definitely think that, you guys know where I stand with all this. I definitely think Luffy's not going to win this fight or this round, essentially, because I do think a lot of the dialogue, one, it would be way too easy, very, very anticlimactic. It's cool Luffy's getting his hype at the moment. The way the dialogue's going between Luffy and Kaido, it is generally one more of, I suppose, Kaido giving Luffy his respect, his props. Kaido's kind of excited by what he's seeing in Luffy, but generally in One Piece fights, the time for Luffy to actually beat the opponent is when things get very, very serious and Luffy's kind of on his last legs. He's gone through something very, very brutal or very punishing, for example. Like, point being, Luffy didn't beat Crocodile when he got to the rooftop for the first time, and Luffy was completely, cocky and confident in his new water strategy and stuff like that, and his ability to deal damage to Crocodile, things like that. Like, it's never so easy as, Luffy just picks up, Luffy's just impressing the opponent, and he's just impressive all the way through to the end, and he wins. Like, it's always a lot more difficult than that. So I do think that this is the moment for Luffy to show off his new abilities. I do think that Kaido still has his awakening up his sleeve, which is pretty important. And Kaido's got a flashback up his sleeve, which we've got to keep in mind. This is a shonen, so having a flashback up your sleeve is huge for what you can do afterwards. So I do think this is, just the moment that Kaido is basically giving Luffy his props. Looks good for Luffy. I would be very, very surprised if Luffy just steamrolls Kaido all the way to the end, as casually as he's been doing, with no sense of actual, stakes or urgency between them, which is, that's the reality of it right now. It is a very casual match between the two in terms of the feeling between the two opponents. This is not at all vibes like Luffy versus Lucci or Luffy versus Crocodile Underground or any of the really dramatic One Piece fights. So, the rooftop stuff, it's just crazy to look at those panels and actually believe that it's happening. It's pretty cool seeing that Luffy has gotten to this level so quickly. Beyond that, we've got, so starting with Big Mom outside of the rooftop, she's got a new homie, which is very exciting because it's basically looks like an amped up version of Zeus, or maybe not an amped up version of Zeus, but at the very least a more aggressive usage of a homie similar to Zeus in terms of capabilities. So it's called Hera. I was a little surprised at that because Hera is not tied to thunder or lightning as far as I know. You know, Hera is just Zeus's wife. I would have expected if she's making a new homie to call it Thor or something along those lines, but I guess Oda wanted to stick with Greek mythology and he just wanted to take Zeus and just create a female version of Zeus that was maybe a little more aggressive, so there we go, Hera. So it does look like Hera has some crazy firepower and just careened straight into the skull of Onigashima and went back inside. I do think that was a little strange, like a little strange way to kind of do it, because it did seem like Oda just wanted to get Big Mom back inside, so just have her just blindly charge straight through the skull and then boom, she's just back inside, even though I would think that she would fly back towards the rooftop or whatever. Maybe she can't control the homie that well just because it's new. So, remains to be seen. Does mean Zeus is back in play. And interestingly enough, I mean, we can get to this in a moment, but interestingly enough, like Zeus does seem to want to get back to Mama. He wants to get back to Big Mom. Big Mom is right next to Nami at the moment, so I do think we could have a very easy setup for Nami to pick up Zeus again. If Zeus comes wandering back and Mama kind of kicks him to the curb, then Zeus finds a new home with Nami. So, to me, that works pretty well. I do think that the general Big Mom... So, okay, let's talk about, real quick, Killer and Hawkins. I've maintained for a little bit that I think that... I don't know how vocal I've been about it recently. Last I mentioned it was probably on the Henny Cool Brothers podcast. I do think that Killer is going to die during this Onigashima battle. But really I first mentioned it in a theory video I did way back when we didn't know what the fate of Killer was after, you know, Kaido ran into the Kid Pirates, the Hawkins, and the on-air... Like, Kaido ran into Kid, Hawkins, and Apu, and we didn't really know what happened to Killer or Kid's crew after that. I had made a theory way back then about how I thought that Kaido had killed Killer, and obviously that turned out to be wrong. But I maintain all of the reasoning in that theory. I just believe I got the timing wrong. So I maintain that I think that there's a lot of stuff that points to Killer dying. I think I just got the timing wrong, that it was too early in the story for Killer to die. But I do think that Killer is going to die by the end of Wano, and probably by the end of Onigashima, at least in my mind. So I do like that Hawkins mentioned that, you know, Killer, you've got a 92% chance of dying. To me, I was like, yeah, good. That sounds pretty good to me. I know that it's a Hawkins prediction, and Hawkins has been, I feel like, famously bad at predicting things. I think he's always predicted the worst possible outcome and just generally been wrong about that. Maybe that's not true. Maybe we gotta go, like, that's just a feeling I've gotten. Maybe Hawkins has actually been on point, or his predictions have just been up in the air or unconfirmed up till this point. So we gotta, you know, wait and see. I know that, you know, these are the protagonists. Obviously, the villains are going to tell them that they've got a high chance of dying or a low chance of success, and, you know, that should actually tell us the opposite. But I do wonder if, like, this is one of those Hawkins predictions that actually is going to come true in some sense, that, you know, Killer, you've got a 92% chance of dying. Personally, I'm excited for that just because I do believe that there is a good amount of reasoning behind my belief that Killer is going to die. I suggest you guys check out that video. You can have some updated thoughts based on current events or whatever, how much still holds up true from that video, but I'm still clinging on to that theory. I think I just got the timing wrong, but I do think the theory is still correct that Kid will lose at least Killer from his crew by the end of the day. So, besides that, let's talk about the Otama Nami Ulti page 1. I guess Ulti wasn't really in this chapter. I thought the comedy between Usopp and Nami against page 1 was funny. I do think it'll be a little weird in the anime when we kind of just have probably 2 or 3 or 4, or maybe honestly 5 minutes of page 1 kind of just holding on to Komachiyo and kind of just chilling while Nami and Usopp, you know, hit him with attacks and stuff, and like probably the gag is gonna roll on for like a little. I just think it'll be a little weird because it was already a little weird for me to see in the manga page 1 kind of just holding on to Komachiyo and not really doing anything while Nami and Usopp were hitting him. And I get that it was for a gag moment. I thought that it was actually pretty fun. I love Usopp and Nami back and forth because they're on a certain wavelength that only the two of them are really on. Chopper kind of gets on that wavelength as well in terms of like, we're helpless, let's like be the worst version or like the most useless versions of ourselves, even though we could be like this. Let's just like, they go down to their worst versions of themselves for the gag, obviously, and in that moment they're really helpless at doing a bunch of like gag, Usopp and Nami are weak type things. So that's always fun to see. I do think it was like, it's just gonna be weird in the anime when it's kind of just like page one just silently holding on for like 5 minutes as they just like hit him and yell about things. So I thought the gag was funny. I was very surprised at how page one went out this arc. Not the arc. Maybe he's still around for the arc. It did look like he got hit by a full-on serious punch from Big Mom. Like, I personally, from what I saw, it looked like it was another Advanced Conqueror's Haki attack, this time just from Big Mom, because we got the visual of the Black Lightning, obviously. That doesn't mean Advanced Conqueror's Haki on its own, obviously, but I think that's obvious, right? No, because we've had times, I think any time in the past that we've had Black Lightning around an attack, it has been when two Conqueror's Haki users have clashed, so that's more just it leaking. I think when an individual Conqueror's Haki user, I think we've never had it before when an individual Conqueror's Haki user uses an attack that has Black Lightning, and it turns out to just be Armament Haki or something like that, right? Like, when Kaido hit Luffy with Thunder Bagua in Act 1, it had the Black Lightning because he was using Advanced Conqueror's Haki. I think that's correct. I think maybe gotta do a bit of a reread throughout Wano and I guess pre-Wano to see if we've had any instances of individual Conqueror's Haki users hitting characters with attacks and Black Lightning coming out of it. Because I think before we really started to get the reveal that you could imbue your attacks with Black Lightning, it was kind of just when two Conqueror's Haki users clashed, that was when the Black Lightning happened to come out. But in general, I think so far, like I think generally we are to take it as when an individual Conqueror's Haki user uses an attack that involves Conqueror's Haki, that's when the Black Lightning will also come out. So basically, that being said, I do think that Big Mom hit page one with a Conqueror's Haki attack. The other, I guess, visual indicator is that we get a little bit of a cloud, if that makes sense. Like, now that Luffy's hitting Kaido with these advanced Conqueror's attacks, we do get a bit of the visual, not just of the Black Lightning, but a sort of cloud of separation between where his fist made contact and where his Haki actually hit the opponent. So I do think that we got a bit of that cloud with the Big Mom page one panel. Please analyze that panel and people get back to me in the comments, because to me that is what it looks like is happening. And I think Oda is just going to more freely show Conqueror's Haki users at the very tippy top. So like the Kaido, Big Mom, probably Shanks, maybe Dragon, those type of characters having this effect where now their attacks are just going to show Conqueror's Haki lightning coming out and sort of this cloud barrier separation, no contact type thing, right? I think that's what's going to happen. So, point being, I think that page one might be out for at least a minute or so. Like he's probably going to be out for like, I'm using minute in terms of like or reverse hyperbole, I guess. Like I think he's going to be out for like a while, like a little while, because that's like, even Queen was kind of rolling when Big Mom gave him a punch a while back, and that was definitely not using Haki or anything. That was just raw brute strength. So for Big Mom to go all out on page one like that, I don't know. I think page one might be out for a little while, which would make it interesting if it's just Nami and Usopp versus Ulti. Yeah, it would be really, really strange, because I did think that the matchup was kind of cool, the way it was being set up of those two versus the two bickering siblings. I just think it's a cool pair up, but maybe, I don't know, maybe page one gets back up in a little while and we're just not going to see the bulk of this fight for a moment. But interesting to see how this is going to go. I like to believe that Oda's not taking away the Ulti page one matchup from Nami and Usopp, unless of course this is not the final battle, in which case this was never going to be the final matchup. But anyway, the Big Mom stuff, I did not like that, so I'll be frank with that, because, you know, I didn't think it's like the worst thing in the world or whatever. Like, I'm not going to sit here and overread, but I'm not going to lie to you, like, I did not think that was good. If I had to explain, I guess, bit by bit, the Olin stuff, I think we always knew. Well, I like to believe that the Olin stuff would not come back into play, because I just personally didn't enjoy it. I generally don't like when amnesia is used to trigger certain, like, different aspects of characters' personality and stuff. I just generally didn't like all of that Olin stuff. So my hope was that it was not going to come into play, but I did understand why most people were saying that it probably is going to come into play. I got that. I was kind of prepared for that. I think many of us were prepared for the idea that Big Mom, multiple sides of her personality are going to come out. But this was a little different in that it's not as though, it doesn't look as though, we need a little more clarification. right? We need a little more clarification, but this is not as though Big Mom got hit in the head again and she reverted to a totally different personality type. The implication I didn't like that came out from this is that this is actually just something that seems to happen, that she has another sort of different persona or different vibe that comes out, that like this mothering personality or something like that Prometheus was saying. It's just something that comes out for her that only comes out when she's talking to, or sometimes comes out when she's talking to children of a certain age. Like, that's, how do I break down like how much I don't like this? Because it's not the worst thing in the world, because yeah, I get, we've seen that Big Mom has strange sides to her personality and such, but I would have much rather that the Olin personality just be forced out through some event, like her being hit with something or something, because this trigger of talking to small children brings out this mothering side of her personality. It's just written out of nowhere. I mean, that's the reality of it. I generally don't like it if a villain has a sudden, extremely convenient shift in terms of personality or motivations or actions to suddenly really help the protagonist and do something drastically opposed to everything that they were doing before, which is Big Mom suddenly turning on the Beast Pirates and going after significant officers of the Beast Pirates and actually protecting the Straw Hat crew. For something like that, I would hope that the trigger for that would be somewhat, like, just planted a little better. Like, I don't like just writing in a new aspect of the villain's person, because that's what this was. Oda just wrote in a new side to Big Mom's personality, which is that she has a mothering side when it comes to children that are, 10 years old or younger or something like that. That was not something that was really... Because the Olin things that happened before didn't hint that that's what was going on. That this is a mothering side of her that's coming out because she's talking, like, because she's around Otama or something like that. That was... The Olin stuff was nothing to do with that. So this is a totally new dimension to her personality that could have easily been hinted at in many different ways throughout, like, at any point in Whole Cake Island, at any point during the Olin stuff. Like, we could have played up a little bit that this is a mothering sort of personality or something, or like she has some connection to young kids or something, or like even during her flashback. I'm just thrown for a loop here that Oda just wrote in essentially a whole new dimension to who Big Mom is at a moment that's very, very, like, it just feels very, very random. And you can say that, well, Big Mom has been a very erratic character throughout the series so far, and that's fine, but then you, like, that, I don't think that's an excuse to just write in drastic personality changes and, like, make up a new reason for it in the moment at any point to have convenient events occur. Like, it's very different than, for example, Nico Robin helped Luffy out. Why? Because Nico Robin hinted something about the Will of D. It's fine to hint that, like, a villain does something not particularly villainous or helps out the protagonist in some way or suddenly seems to have some sort of change in, like, if we find out that there's some motivation that we haven't known about before. But this is not as much a motivation that we're finding out about with Big Mom. Oda really did just write in this whole personality thing that we'd never heard of or never really been hinted at before, that Big Mom has a mothering personality when it comes to small children. So, I don't know, did not enjoy that. Let's wait and see where it goes or how much is elaborated on, but there's only so much that can be elaborated on when nothing was hinted at beforehand. So, that's where I'm at with that. That was the only part of the chapter I didn't really like. I still think the rooftop stuff is really cool. And yeah, besides that, I will talk to you all next week.